Yeah, this part of the Earth's sheltered home build needs a little extra explanation. I'll use fancy PowerPoint graphics. This picture represents a cross-section of the Earth with grass on top. Typically, you would dig trenches down several feet into the Earth, and then you would pour your footings at the bottom of the trenches, often using the trench itself as the form. Then you would build stem walls on top of that. The amount of backfill is minimal, and then you put down your rigid insulation, pour your floor, etc. On my site, I have soft sand that does not really allow for trenches like that, so I need a much wider excavation. I also had lots of curved footings to deal with, and it would have looked pretty messy. So the footings guy said I should just have the excavator level it off, and then we'll form and pour the footings on level ground. Problem is, I'm now several feet below grade. So we already poured the footings, and in the spring we'll be building the walls on them. Then I'll need to get dirt in to fill this area, which will be much harder with a shovel and wheelbarrow once the walls are up. I estimate I'll need to fill more than 200 cubic yards, and then I'll need to put down my insulation and floor, etc. Instead, the plan is to put much of the dirt back with the skid steer before the walls go in and get in the way. I just need to dump dirt over the footings and completely bury them so that my 6,000 pound skid steer doesn't tear up the footings. I plan to scrape off the excess so it's about 4 to 6 inches above the footing, and then I'll clear that sand off the footings with a shovel. After the walls are built, I will still have some manual backfill to do, and this not to scale illustration makes it look like a lot, but it'll actually be less than 20 yards, which is pretty much 1/10 of the effort of if I did it the other way. And now, let's jump back to the time lapse. It was actually pretty fun this first day because the ground wasn't frozen yet. In the couple hours between getting out to the site and it getting too dark to work, I managed to move about 30 yards of sand. I can't imagine doing that much by shovel. Then the weather turned cold. We had to come out to put up some construction fencing and signs for safety reasons. That part was pretty easy. I didn't get any video for the first few hours of moving dirt. Perhaps the camera was too cold or it's just dying on me. I had taken some video with my cell phone. With the ground frozen, my skid steer had a hard time getting into it. I managed to find a sunny side of a bank that was warm enough to get into, and then I found I could actually tunnel under the frozen layer. Eventually, I figured I could use the weight of the skid steer bucket to knock down the frozen sand. I could then use the skid steer to carry these large chunks of frozen sand over to where I needed them. Time for a break to go sledding with the boys. Yep, no fair. Back to work for me. Actually, it's kind of fun. On the warmer day, I could pull the dirt back to level it off, but with those big frozen boulders, that wasn't working so well. At one point, I got out and tried to rake some of the more delicate areas near the basement walls, but I soon found that I could barely move it with hand tools. So much for digging out the footing later. I'm guessing it will be frozen until spring. Here's a final look at the site after that second day. I think I will leave the rest of the earth moving for after the ground starts to thaw.